Oh my God, I think I'm streaming for the first time in, I don't know, like a really long time. So I gotta figure out how to do all this again. It's been a really long time since I had a chance to do a stream. I wanted to see if we could fix this 14 Pro Max that's here. Plus, I miss you guys. I just got back from the Gadget Repair Expo, and it was so fun to see all of our old students that were there and to connect with lots of folks in the industry. Nicole does a really good job of setting this up with Jeremy and Brian. So look for Gadget Repair Expo 6.0, I guess, when they do it again. It's one of my favorite conferences to go. We made these super fun shirts for the conference, which you can get yours at the iPad Rehab store. Isn't this funny? Can you see it? I thought that was so funny. So you can grab yours at the iPadRehab.com, click store for your chicken shirt. And let's jump into this repair. I'm going to check to see if I can see any chat. Ah! Long time no see. Hope you're in good health. I am. I'm doing great. We have been so busy lately. I have been doing trainings all over the world. I've been doing a training. I got to go to Australia. You might have seen. We've been doing lots of federal government trainings here. Lots of really exciting fixes that I wish I could tell you more about. So I also just realized that it's our 10th year coming up. We're celebrating our 10th year. June class will be the 10th year. I can't believe it. Since I started doing microsoldering training back in 2015, it was June. So this June, coming up our June class, it's going to be a 10-year anniversary. I'd love to hear ideas. How can we celebrate 10 years and see what you guys think? All right, so let's jump into this repair. Oh, greetings from Romania. Oh, Romania is about to have an election. Let's see. All right. I am going to tell you about this phone here. So this is an iPhone 14 Pro Max. And I thought it might make a good video because I haven't seen one like this yet. So I'm going to show you what happens when I try to power it on, because it does something really weird with the screen. And I'm curious if you guys have ever seen this. So let me try to remember how to move things around. Let's go to here. Now we can look. This is kind of looking under the microscope. There's been a prior repair. There's a lot of solder paste and stuff like that on the board. But the board hasn't been separated. So right here in the housing, I'm going to go ahead and connect it up to a screen, and I'm going to power it up with the squid with DC power. So let's see if I can remember how to do that. Oh, that is click, click, DC power. Does that show my DC power? That might be too hard. All right, DC power. Show me DC power. That I might have to activate. Yay, DC power. All right, so I should be able to plug in my squid right here. And I'm going to get my known good screen. So the 14 Pro Max, these are the OLED screens, so they don't have a backlight. So they're not going to just sort of light up and where you just see the backlight but no image like an LCD screen might. These are either going to be sort of all or nothing, at least everyone I've ever seen. All right, let's go under the microscope, and I'm going to plug in. It's very fluxy. Somebody's been here before me. That's okay. Power button and screen. Oh, it was so fun at that conference. It was fun to see some of our really awesome success stories, like Dustin Mahaffey, who was running the HDMI contest, and lots and lots and lots of our old students. I was the MC for the North America CPU contest. That was kind of a fail. They had equipment that nobody was really very familiar with. I'd never even seen this brand, this blue brand. And it's funny with CPU how tiny little details end up being really important. So the stencil that they used in the contest was kind of like too tall. And so it didn't work. It didn't work in the time, not even for the judge. All right, let's plug this thing in, but it was very, very fun to see everybody's different strategies for doing CPU work, even guys that are doing hundreds of CPUs. So it was kind of a bummer that they didn't have a winner at all for the North America CPU contest. All right, here we are plugged in, and let's see if we can switch to the hand camera so that you guys can see what does this look like. Hand camera, where are you? All right, hand camera, which is really just focusing on this multimeter. Move that. All right, here's our device. Now we'll look at DC power, which I don't know why it has a number 3 on it right now. Let's hit activate DC power. All right, now I'm going to press the power button, and you can see what does it do. So I'm pressing the power button, press, 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 press. And it's doing this weird thing. This is green, like this weird teal colored green. I'll show you. I was curious what the green screen looks like. There's a green screen behind me. Look at that. So no image. Now, if we look at the DC power, it looks like that is turning on. So that's a fairly normal DC power current sequence. So this device is turning on, but we don't see anything. And this is my known good screen, because these screens go bad all the time. Isn't that weird? Have you ever seen that before? So let's give this one sort of a temporary diagnosis as the phone turns on, but it has no image. So in order for us to get the iTunes backup, and that's what this person's wanting, iTunes backup, then we're going to have to fix the image problem. All right, so there's no backlight, and there's no potential spam. Should I answer it? Kind of tempted to answer it. All right, so how are we going to go about fixing a device that turns on but? So if you've been to my class, you will hear me say that turns on but, whenever you say turns on but, you say I diode mode the connector. So our next strategy is to diode mode the connector. Now that's going to be a challenge because we don't have a ton of information on how image works in the 14 Pro Max. So as we get into these newer devices, we have to a lot of time just sort of, use inference by really understanding our old devices. I got to turn off my DC power, doohickey up there. Gosh, it has taken me a really long time to set up all of these little things. How did I turn that on to begin with? Oh, there it is. Okay, turn that off. Okay, here's our phone, turns on but. We've got to diode mode the connector. So I'm going to take my screen off. This is my working screen. I just used it yesterday on another job, so I'm pretty confident that that screen is good. And now we're going to look at the connector here where we plug in the screen. We're going to check the resources that we do have. So even though we don't have a schematic that tells us image power and image data, we do have a board view from ZXW. So let's pull up ZXW and see if we can check that out. All right, ZXW, show yourself. There, right. Here's ZXW, and now ZXW, I'm going to try to shrink it down so that we can diode mode the image connector, and we're going to try to look at the multimeter and ZXW all at the same time. So I'm going to give that a try by clicking over here. And it's working. So we'll put the multimeter here. We're going to wake up the multimeter. So I'm going to put the multimeter in diode mode. All right, diode mode right there. Diode mode. Red probe on ground. So red probe on ground. Now under the microscope, we're going to make this look just like ZXW. So I'm going to flip it around. Look at that. All right, so up here we have our charge port. So this is our charge port, and this is our image connector. This is what we really care about. So let's go over to ZXW, and let's just start with this top row right here. And we're going to have to zoom in and hope that we have the diode mode readings. And there they are in the red and white. So there we are, diode mode readings. So we can see that we've got ground, and then 0.6, 0.4, 0.4, 0.3. So we're going to just kind of go down the row and check. So let's do it. Diode mode the connector. All right, so this is this right? Let me make sure that I have the right orientation here. All right, so with the charge port facing up, right here at the edge, we've got these numbers. Okay, charge port facing up, it should be a match. All right, diode mode the connector, red probe on ground. First one is 0.6, so that's a match. Let me make that a little bit bigger for you guys. All right, so that is correct. And the next one should be 0.4. So is it? Next one, 0.482, close enough. Third one, 0.4, 0.5, close enough. Next one, 0.3, close enough. Next one, 0.3, close enough. Okay, so far that's a match. Now we have to move it down a little bit. So we'll move it down, move it down, move it down to here. All right, so this is a challenge. One student once suggested kind of a cool idea, which is to just read these out to yourself. So I think we run this one, 0.3, and then play it back like a voice memo. I think that's cool. All right, here's the next one. We're getting a different reading. This is a problem. All right, so let's skip that one. So we're at 0.3, 0.3, problem. So this one right here is the problem, and we're going to count that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Number 7. 7 is the problem. And let's continue on down, and it's back to 0.6, 0.7, perfect match. 0.3. Okay, so now we know some information that we can work with. Okay, so now we know that the number 7 one is the problem. Let's see if we can find that number 7 one right on ZXW. Let me see if I can minus that down. So let's research. That number that we got was 1.4. That's a really high number. All these other numbers were 0.3, 0.5, 0.6. And then 1.4, that number is so high that if it was even a little bit higher, the multimeter would have said over limit. So it's very close to OL, or open circuit. So let's go research and say, why would that circuit be open? So we're going to go check on ZXW and see if we can click and follow that circuit around. So let me see if I can kind of put this just over here. All right, so we're going to zoom out from far away. Now we got to go on a hunt. It was number 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this one right here. It was supposed to be 0.286, but we got very high number, open circuit. That's a problem. That is a lead for our green weird image problem. So where does this go? Now, this I thought was interesting. If we look at ZXW, we can see that there's, all of this circuitry, but we don't have a schematic, so we can't really see. So for example, C7677, it's a random capacitor. And we know that capacitors generally have one side on ground and the other side is on the circuit. That's a capacitor. And then we have this neighbor, resistor, R7678. Resistors usually are a drawbridge that are connecting two sides of the circuitry. So a resistor doesn't have ground on one side a lot of the time. Sometimes they do. Okay, but here's what's weird. When we look around here, we can see that there are some capacitors like this one, this one, this one. How do I know they're capacitors? I don't, other than it says C, capacitor, 7670, C, 7671. So those are unusual, right? We expect capacitors to have 1 foot on ground, 1 foot on ground, 1 foot on ground. These ones don't. So either one of two things is going on. One, that's not really a capacitor. It's mislabeled in ZXW. Or that is a special type of coupling capacitor that couples one side of a line to another. So whether this is actually a capacitor that is supposed to be there, it's the kind that you can't just knock off. Or is it mislabeled and it's actually a filter or a resistor or something like that? We don't know because we don't have the schematic. Now, why do we care about any of this? Because if we look back to our line, what do we notice? Where does our line go? It goes to two components. One is a capacitor, C7552. And the other is one of these weird capacitors. I'm going to click away from it. C7615. Is that really a capacitor, the coupling kind, or is it mislabeled? Now, why do I care? Because when we're talking about capacitors in general, you've seen all of these videos on my channel where I'm using the iPad Rehab short killer, right? Here's the iPad Rehab short killer, and I'm using something like this to chop capacitors off the board, and I get rid of them all the time. Because you can simply delete one of these smoothing capacitors and it doesn't cause a problem. Why would I do that? Because a failed capacitor causes a short to ground. Short to ground in diode mode is going to show up as a 0 or a very low value. That's not our problem. We have a problem where our diode mode is very high, 1.4. That's very high. That is not a short circuit. It has nothing to do with a capacitor that's a wire to ground that we have to hunt down with a thermal camera. That's a different type of problem. Short circuit and open circuit are two very different problems, chocolate and vanilla. Okay, so where could our line actually be open? I'll tell you what kind of a component can fail and cause open circuits. And that is filters, things that start with an L on the schematic. Let's go and see if we can find any filters that are around here. So I'm looking around, and I'm looking for a component that starts with L. I don't see any. We'd have to look on a different schematic. So that's weird. There's no filters that are listed here at all. So it makes me wonder if, oh, here's one. This one, L, this is a filter, right? So I'm curious whether or not the component that is kind of in the way of our open circuit, this guy, and where else does our circuit go? Nowhere. It goes to that guy and nowhere else. Our circuit probably goes through this component, and now we can look to see the other side of our circuit. So where else does it go? Now I've clicked on the other side and I can see, lots of red everywhere. Okay, so I see the circuit that we're interested in that comes to the image connector. It must pass through that component. Whether it's a filter or a capacitor, it doesn't matter. It must go through that component. Now let's see what kind of information we can get from that circuit. What is it? Let's try to guess. Is this, power or data? So let's see, where else does that go? It looks like it goes through this dot, which means it must go down to the bottom board at some point. And where else does it go? It goes to the CPU, CPU, or else it comes from the CPU. It goes to the power management chip, and then it goes out to lots of little chips and circuitry all the way around, right? This looks like probably it's a brain power line. This is probably something like a 1.8 power line that provides data from the CPU. It's probably some kind of the base power line from which data is made. That would be my guess. Is it important? Do we care about it? I think yes. We have a line that's going out of the CPU. It's going to multiple places, and it ultimately comes right here to our C7615, and then it must cross through him and go into the connector where our screen lights up. That's probably some sort of screen data or power for the screen. Okay, so here's my question. How do I know whether or not this is a capacitor or whether or not it is a filter or whether or not I need to replace it? How can I use my multimeter to ask that question? So that's the thing that I'm curious about. So let's check in with chat and see. Let's see. So we've got a chat going on where everybody is up. What is with the red vertical line on your recording? Probably the sensor in this camera. I saw a red vertical line before. This camera has gone to Australia. It's gone to North Carolina. We've been doing all of these travel courses, so it's probably a little bit beat up for sure. Okay. Personally, it was more interesting to follow Lewis's brilliant reaction to the whole BWE BS. That was very funny. I want to give a shout out while we're going to spend a second talking about BWE. How do I turn this off for a second? A shout out to my friend Ben Duffy, who was the one that figured all of this out. And I noticed he didn't get any credit in any of the videos, so I wanted to make sure that that he knew. So Ben was saying, "Hey guys," he was trying to get to just see, you know, hey, does anybody think this is weird? It was really fun to watch in real time as Ben was the detective that figured all of this out, starting with the ABN number that went to someone else and who is that in the record store and all of this really funny. Wasn't that a crazy drama? But I think Lewis absolutely nailed telling that story. I mean, I would have gone on for way too long and made it way too complex, but he just cut to the chase. Didn't he do a great job? And he avoided like making any spoilers or anything. If you haven't watched Lewis's video, I don't remember the date or the title, the one that says something about the master, trolled by the master or something like that, watch it. That is probably Lewis's, you know, just greatest video that I can remember. That's just absolutely tops. All right, so let's continue on with this job, and let's see. I think the other side of that cap was leading to a filter when you clicked on it. I don't know. Let's see. All right, let's go back and check out ZXW. I really would like a better way to have chat kind of over here so that I could interact with it, because I can't see you guys at all right now while I'm looking at ZXW. So here we are back at ZXW. We have an open circuit over here at pin 14, the 7th one down. It's supposed to be 0.286, but it's not. And when we click to say, where does this go? It goes to resistors, right? Because I think that this is similar to a 1.8. I bet the voltage on here is 1.8. And 1.8 sort of forms the 1. That is sort of like the data line X. Data line Steve is a 1 because this power line fills it up. And then a resistor, the other side of a resistor might go to a chip. So for example, right here, 1639, whatever chip that is. That chip has the ability to pull that line down and create a 0, which can signal to another chip that's listening to that same line. It's how chips talk to each other. They start with a 1, and they can drop that down to a 0 to make words, right? 1, 0, 0, 1, 0, 1, 1, 1. Right? In order to do that, in order for that system to work, there has to be a source of voltage to create the 1. And my guess is that our line probably does that for multiple chips around the board, including the screen. So we're going to have to supply that here, most likely. All right. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to use the other strategy for information when there's no schematic. Wouldn't it be great if there was a schematic and we could just look up and see what is this line named and what does it do? I'm going to go to a known good. So the first thing I'm going to make sure that we actually have a problem here by measuring on a known good in the exact same spot. All right, so I'm going to get rid of this, and I'm going to put multimeter, I guess right here. And here is my known good 14 Pro Max. So let's go to the 14 Pro Max. This is our known good, and we are going to go to that exact same spot. Let's see. What happens if I go here? All right. this is our known good. I'm going to get rid of that. Okay, we got to focus this up. Now on my known good, I have taken out, I've measured around here before, and I have already kind of cleared out some of this waterproofing so that we can really see what's going on. All right, let's get the multimeter out, and we're going to find out. Is our known good also 0.289, or is it 1.4? So let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's this guy. All right, and we can see 0.268. So 268, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right there. 0.268. All right, so now let's really, really look and see what's going on here with these components. All right, so these all look fairly similar to each other, but there are small differences. There are small differences. So some of these are capacitors, and some of these may not be capacitors at all. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to switch to continuity mode. So I'm switching over here to continuity mode. Continuity mode is beep mode. So I'm just pressing these together. So I'm going to kind of check out a little bit and say, all right, if I just park one probe at number 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm going to stick it there. And then I'm just going to take my multimeter and just sort of go like this. Just kind of see what's connected to number 7. Aha, okay. So now, let me try to make that really clear for you guys. I'm going to zoom in. All right, so in continuity mode, when I go like this, here does not have continuity. Let's make sure that we understand ZXW. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right? So when I put my probe here, it does not have continuity, and it shouldn't. It should be ground, right? So I'm going to put my probe here again. Now I'm going to check to see, is this ground by coming over here and touching ground? Beep. Yes. Okay. Makes sense. So that is a capacitor. Now I'm going to go back in here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And when I touch this side of the capacitor, that is part of that same line, just like it says on ZXW. Now ZXW says that the neighbor, right there, this is the bottom of C7615, is still part of that same circuit. Now, if this is a capacitor, then it has a space. It's not a wire. It has an insulating gap between this between one side and the other. All right, so let's find out. Let's go and see, is there continuity between these things? So I'm just going on either side of this guy. What is the resistance across this thing? Aha! That tells me that this is not a capacitor. So I want to make sure that that is really clear. A capacitor has a space in the middle of it, an airspace. It is not a wire. A capacitor has a space. So if you use your probes on one side, the other side, you should not get a beep in continuity mode across a capacitor. And on our known good, we are getting beep. What does that mean? It means this is not a capacitor, and ZXW is wrong. It is a wire. It is meant to be a wire. It is a filter, a little thin wire. So what does that mean for us? Well, if you've got a circuit that has a little thin wire and something happens like water damage or a surge or electrical overload, that wire can either break entirely, which would make the circuit open, or it can just become very, 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 very thin. And in that case, the resistance in the wire is very high. It makes your number go up. So instead of 0.286, we get 1.4. I bet you that if we use our multimeter and we go on the other side of that filter on our bad board, I bet you that we'll find it has the normal reading on the other side of the filter. So if we measure here, we get 1.4 because the wire is very, very thin. But if we measure the other side, we're going to check to see if we have our normal reading, 0.286. All right, let's go check that. We're going to measure on our bad board. So let's go back here, and we're going to find out. Oh, why is that doing that? All right, so this is good board. Here is bad board, and we are going to check under the microscope. All right, so under the microscope. Okay, so where's our little filter? It's going to be, you know, somewhere in here. So we got to dig him up. Always use heat, hair dryer heat, before you try to probe around in there, or you're just going to knock these guys off. So I'm going to start with a little bit of hair dryer heat, and I'm just going to get rid of those, clear it out a little bit so that we can take these readings, these measurements. Are you saying ZXW is not accurate? Not in this case. It is. That's why I wanted to do this video. I wanted to do a video just to kind of make the point that we can't just assume that ZXW is always correct, especially when we don't have schematics. Sometimes it may just be like language problems, like the letter C instead of the letter L. Oh, look at that. Do you guys see that? Our dude is like burned up. That's going to be our guy. Did you see that? I just uncovered it, and it looks destroyed, right? Isn't that crazy? All right, let's go ahead and clean that out a little bit more in this area. Wow, it's melted. It looks like the top layer of that filter is just peeled. Look at that. Do you guys see that? I wish I could get even closer for you to check it out. Let me see if I can get even closer. That's pretty wild. This guy is very obviously not happy. Let's try to focus. It's so tiny, it's so hard to focus. See that guy? It's like the outer layer is just sort of peeled back on that component. This guy. Right there. Okay, but now let's do our experiment. So let's get a little bit more light in here. Make sure that everything's in focus for you and me. All right, so our question now, we know from our multimeter and diode mode that we have 1.4 in the connector. So our question is, do we have the normal value on the other side, the far side of what we now know is not a capacitor at all, it's a filter. So let's go ahead and check that. So let me see if I can put both of these together. Let's see if I can make this view have both, possibly. Will that work? So you guys can see. All right, this is my on-screen multimeter, formerly known as the trust-based multimeter. All right, so I'm going to go back, not in continuity mode. I'm going to go back to diode mode. Diode mode. Red probe on ground. So here's my red probe, and I'm going to stick it on ground. When we were at GRE and I was giving a talk, and we needed to find ground, I made the comment that whenever you see one of these apples on the board, apple's always ground. Apple on the board's always ground. So that can be our ground. Now let's go back here. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, number 7 in the connector is 1.4, as we know. And then this side is going to be the same, 1.4, just as we know. Now here's our question. When we jump across to the other side, is the line okay on the far side? Oh, it's not okay. Interesting. Okay. we have bigger fish to fry, and I think I'm going to run out of time to do this stream. That's the interesting thing about live. All right, so right here, open, and the far side should be 0.286. But it's not. It's not 0.286. It is 0, right? What does that mean? 0 means short to ground. So this filter has blown up. It has blown up. And normally a filter is going to blow up because there's a short sort of on the far side of it, right? If you've got a short over here, then when the electricity comes this way and it goes down to ground through the short, it will make the filter blow up. In our case, the filter is blown up and there is a short, you know, further back. So we have two problems. This filter and that line is short. So let me see if we can kind of dig around. Let's measure that circuit somewhere else on the board to see if, actually, let me make sure that we're on the right guy. So let me do a little bit of researching around because I see a little bit of weird stuff going on here. Let's make sure that that is our guy. I'm pretty sure it is because it's burned up. And I got to check my time because I got to pick up Maisie. It is track season, and I got to get to track practice before too long. So let's check this out. All right, we're going to have to do a little measuring around. That cap does look a bit sus. All right, let's see. It's Chinese software package for phones and tablets. Subscription, yes. If you want to, it's totally zooshed. Yes, you haven't heard of ZXW. ZXW is what we've always used for years, and you can find it on iPad Rehab website. Click supply. There's an article on the website that you can read all about ZXW. And you can also get a license from us right there on the website as well if you want to check it out yourself. Okay, and there's a couple of these different, you know, China softwares. This is just the one that we happen to use. All right, I'm going to probe around a little bit and see what's going on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 is 1.4, and then over here, that is this is the cap that we know about. Oh, no, this one is the neighbor, so that should be the same reading. So this guy might be somebody else. Yeah, that probably shouldn't be ground. All right, this is a neighbor, 0.2. This could be our guy. And that is 0.6. All right, so we got to figure out exactly which one of these guys are. So I'm going to clear this out a little bit more just so that we can count and that we can be sure who's who in this area. And then we're going to have to first cure our short. So if there really is a short here, which, you know, maybe we're miscounting and we're measuring the wrong guy. But if there really is a short, you always have to cure that problem first before you would go about replacing filters. Now, ultimately, though, we're going to have a filter in here so that we can close the line. All right, let's see. And of course, on this one, this is a prior repair attempt, and it could have a little bit of bigger fish frying in here, but I would be surprised. We'll see, though. So just for you guys to know, as we kind of push around and look in this other area, in here, I don't know why someone took off this soldered on shield, and you can see that in here is a lot of solder paste. And that, like, don't use solder paste on these boards like this. Like, this is little flecks of solder that's all in here. And those can, you know, conduct electricity and make things short. So that's a little bit of a concern. But it looks like it's just kind of right here in this corner. And I don't think any of that circuitry is really related to this problem at all. Okay, so now we can kind of count down. We've got two big guys, and we can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, the 9th component. So let's look on ZXW and make sure that the 9th component is the one that's the capacitor that's really a filter. So the 9th one down. So let's bring back ZXW and just kind of get organized here. All right, so I have to drill out a little bit. Yeah, so we've got our two big guys, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so the 9th one is the one that is actually a capacitor. So it should be ground on one side and the line on the other side. It's the 10th one that is our fake capacitor. Okay, so this one, the ugly looking one, may not be C7615. So we're going to just focus for now on C7615, and we're going to guess that measuring a capacitor is, of course, ground on one side. So the spot that we specifically care about is right here, right? This is what we care about. We already know that this circuit is open, 1.4, and what we care about is if this guy is normal or is it short on that side. So that's the reading that we want to take, and we're going to count again to be sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, so we're going to go right here and see what that is. All right, so number 10. Let's see if I can, I don't think I can, I got too much going on. All right, we're going to get rid of him. Okay, number 10, diode mode. Diode mode, red probe on ground, and we're going to figure this out. All right, so I'm going to stick my probe there, and now we're going to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 is not our guy. It's the neighbor, 10. So one side is 1.4 as expected, and then here's our question right here. All right, 1 point here, 0.25. All right, so that is correct. So our ugly looking component is totally fine, right? So this really ugly, burned up looking guy is not a problem. That guy is not a filter. He is a capacitor. He's a normal capacitor where he has ground on one side and the line on the other side. So despite his quite chewed up looking appearance, oh yeah, we can kind of scrape him a little bit. That guy is okay. All right, so now what are we going to do? Now we're going to go about actually solving the problem. So we need to bring that 0.2 all the way into the connector. Right now, we have a filter that's supposed to be a thick wire like that, that has become a very, very thin wire, so much so that the resistance is way too high, making that 1.4. So we need to replace it with another one, or in the case of data recovery, I'm going to replace it with just a thick wire. And that way we're going to see if we can bring that 0.2 resistance to ground all the way to the connector. All right, to do that, I'm going to use the iPad Rehab short killer, even though this is actually not a short, this is an open. So I'm going to try and just kind of nudge number 10 right off of the tracks here. Let's make sure I get it right, though. I would hate to knock off the wrong guy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This guy, number 10. Oh, look at that. He is cracked in the middle. Can you guys see that? It's very difficult to make it bright and close at the same time. I don't think I have a good way to do that, but look at that. He's really in two pieces right now. See that? There you go. See, he just disintegrated into two pieces. The first piece is still there. See, there's the other piece. Yep, that was the guy. He had like a hairline crack. Now that hairline crack, I'm surprised that that hairline crack didn't make it fully open, OL, and then we got 1.4. Okay, so now we have to close that by the time I have to pick up Maisie from track. All right, so we're going to put a little bit of flux. This was so fun at the Gadget Repair Expo, guys. I got to make this flux. Check this out. I don't know if you can see it in the camera, but it says Amtech Gadget Repair Expo. I don't think I can show you that. Gadget Repair Expo Flux. Isn't that cool? Gadget Repair Expo Flux. It was very fun. We got to meet the I got to meet like a really cool hero. I got to meet the guy that made those Pace soldering videos from the 70s. Yeah, they were there. Pace was there, and the guy, the CEO, was there who made those videos from the 70s. Super exciting. And they were there with the actual OG Amtech guy, and we got to dispense the flux from a great big tube. Super fun. Highly recommend that conference if you guys are going to go to one. All right, let's see what we can do. I'm going to try my mini hot tweezers. It was very fun to talk to JBC and Pace and talk about tools for this industry. I did get a chance to try a little bit some of the new China tools. Some of them were awesome. I really want to kind of more formally demo some of that stuff. All right, so what are we doing here? I'm going to try and just put a wire on here. I'm going to, I think, close that down. No, that'll get in my way. All right, so I'm going to pick this up in my hand, and that is quite tiny. So I'm just making a little puffy pillow on one side, and I'm going to spin it around and make a puffy pillow on the other side. So I'm going to have to zoom in a little bit. Where is my guy? Puffy pillow, puffy pillow. Okay. I'm going to see if I can just use like a tiny piece of braid. Best, actually, I wonder if I can just get a dude on there, and that might be easier. This is very tiny. Look at my finger. Like, this is so very, very, very tiny. And I'm a little bit torn on what strategy to use. I think I'm going to clean it out a little bit. I won't be able to get any component on there if there's too much of that black goo. So let me clean it out. I might go harvest one and move it over, because that actually might be easier than sticking a wire on here. I'm not sure. What would you do, chat? Would you stick a wire on here? It's really tiny. All right, I'm going to try a wire first, but I really just don't want to have to take the board out, because then I have to unscrew everything, and if I can just drop a wire on here, we can get an answer without having to do that. So let's see if I can. I'm curious what chat would do. Let's see. ZXW, license, known good boards, schematics, trouble to start digging into phone repair. That's another reason I admire. Filter is bad, says Daniel Rock. Yes, it is. All right, the one with the beep was the cap. Oh, good, chat's explaining to chat. I love that so much. Is everybody tracking along? The ugly looking dude that we just assumed, well, that's the filter because it looks blown up, was not the filter. It was the next door neighbor, the actual capacitor, the genuine capacitor that had ground on one side. So when I measured the top of that guy, I was surprised. Hey, why is it measuring ground? Is there a short? No, there's not a short, because I was measuring the ugly looking guy was the real capacitor that was next to our problem guy, the filter. So we don't actually have a short once I counted this guy. It's just by chance that the capacitor is kind of ugly looking, and the bad component, the filter, is a next door neighbor. All right, so what I'm doing now is just taking a piece of copper braid, and I chopped it up a little bit. Maybe you guys can say, replace the filter. Let's see. I'm glad to meet you on live streaming today. Dream come true. Well, thanks for watching, Daniel. Hopefully we can get this fixed before I have to run out. All right, so this is just a piece of copper braid that I shredded up a little bit over here, and I have just one little spec. And I might decide to go hunt down and try to get a filter, but I'm not sure that I have one. All right, so let's see. It's so tiny. Let's see if we can actually get that soldered on with the tools that I have right now. So let's check. Can we do that? Let me pull this over. This is definitely not a job for caffeine.
Says who?
Would you put a wire here, Brad, or would you go get a filter?
I'm drinking caffeine and I'm putting a wire there.
Brad says he's drinking caffeine and putting a wire there. Right now, I think the wire is touching the neighbor. That might actually have done it. Let's check. Multimeter will tell us. So I'm going to defer to the multimeter rather than poking it or trying to guess. The multimeter will either be 0.2 in the connector or 1.4 or open. So let's let the multimeter really be the judge. So how do I do that? Let's bring back multimeter. Red probe on ground. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 0.2 in the connector. Huzzah! All right, great. So did you guys see that? We measured in the connector, and it's 0.2. So this little end of the filter, or the end of this wire, I want to try to get it off without it ripping out, which I might not be able to do. So tiny. Very tiny. Sometimes they come off when you kind of mess with them like this. Well, do you guys think this is going to solve the problem? I think that is a very weak jumper. All right, let me check with having wiggled that off. Let me check. Let me kind of spin it around so it looks the way we're used to it looking, like this. All right, let's go back and check. With that little wiggle wiggle maneuver, is it still 0.2? Is it 0.259? Huzzah! All right, what do you guys think? Is it going to work? I'm going to go ahead and get rid of, I think I'm going to get rid of, I'm going to embiggen this so that we can see what happens. Will it work? I'm curious what you guys think over there in chat land. I'd solder blob it. Ooh. Let's see, any horror stories with the 16? We have one 16 here. The horror story on the 16 Pro Max is for the customer. It's a realtor's phone, local realtor. I think we'll be able to get the data, but they just, I don't know what. It's a local, so I can't wait to find out. But the local realtor said that they just took the phone and went, God damn it, and just took it on its side and went like that on a counter and fractured the board. Like, that's pretty hard to do. All right, so we're gonna, let's get the screen and see, will it turn on or not? Okay, so we'll go ahead and plug in the charge port again. I don't know if I can do all this far away from me. Oh, Brad, I don't know about plugging stuff in anymore. When I was a professor at RIT, after I had babies, and I had, like, you know, I'm up all night with these little kids, there was a time where I had to say, you know what? I'm giving up doing math in front of people anymore. Like, I can't do it. Like, I'm too dumb. I can't. Like, I can remember doing a lab, and it was like, all right, group 1, what'd you guys get? 16? Okay, 16 plus 8. And I'm just like, 17, 18, 19. And then they're just looking at me like, are you counting on your fingers? I'm like, yup, I am. Then I was like, I can't do it anymore. I am going to give up doing math in front of people. I may have to give up doing connectors, little tiny connectors in front of people. I don't know, Brad. Which means, Brad, how old are you? You're over 40, right?
Yeah. I'm already past the I got bad eyesight age.
Yeah. Brad's coming along with the bad eyesight. So I need a new intern whose only job is to come around here and plug this stuff in. All right, let me see how to resuscitate my DC power. All right, I think that's it. Okay, let's find out. I don't have a better way to hide those. All right, let's press the power button and see, does it still have a big ugly green screen? How do I get it to boot up? I don't think it likes that power button. Let me prompt it to boot at the charge port. Uh-oh, I got 9 minutes to get to track practice. All right, prompt to boot. I don't see anything on the screen now. Uh-oh, I don't see anything on the screen. Oh no, we lost our green thing. Uh-oh, now we might have to actually go get a filter. My wire is not good enough. Either that or we have a second problem in the connector, which may well be the case. I didn't check that. Boo, Brad, it's not working. Let's see. Caffeine and thin wires are not good friends. Move in next to the noticeable guy.
Smaller wire?
Huh? Oh, there's Martine. Hey, Martine, we were gonna set up your thing you gave me. It was right over there. And then we were like, we have to figure that out later. All right. Okay, so now we have to go look for a second problem, because what I like about this is that we can tell on DC power. You guys can't tell because DC power up there is not working. How about this one? Is that working? I can tell on DC power that this thing is turning on. So I think that it's turning on, but we don't see image at all. So we lost our big, bright, weird green image. So that must have been that. And now we have to do the exact same thing. It boots, but it doesn't show any display. So we're gonna have to go on a hunt. Let's see if I can turn that is ugly. Turn it off. And that is ugly. Okay. Boo. Boo hiss. All right, I'm going to check to see just if this screen is actually connected. I'm going to connect screens like I always do under the microscope. So let me check under here, and I'm going to make sure that we're actually getting an answer that is true and that we have a second problem, rather than this is just connected by somebody who's in their 50s, which could equally be the case. All right, let's turn that off. Okay, let me check. Before I really go nuts on this and go looking for a whole second problem, let's just make sure that the action of putting the screen on, how's our guy? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, so we have our normal reading there. I'm going to get a little bit of the flux out of this connector. I'm going to just kind of I'm going to try really hard not to brush my jumper off. All right, and now I'm going to plug this in. Make sure, oh, there's a little bit of foam in my connector. That's not good. A little sticky foam. All right, I'm going to give this another try. I'm not convinced. It's usually weird for there to be more than one problem. So let's find out. Is this, I'm going to connect it under the microscope. You're going to watch me do it. Brad, do you connect connectors under the microscope?
99.9%.
99.9% of the time, Brad's connecting. I remember back in the days when I could do math in front of people and I could connect connectors any which way. All right, let's just plug in its own battery. Plugging in its own battery. This is really beat up. What was somebody taking that shield off for? I don't know. All right, now let's try again. Let's see what happens. Let's ask, does it charge? I don't see anything. Boo. Oh! I do see something, Brad. I see image. I see the low battery logo. All right, now we have to finish this up. It is 3:56. Track gets out in 4 minutes. Should we wait for it to just charge up that battery?
What kind of phone is that?
A 14 Pro Max. How about up there? All right, Brad's gonna save us. He's gonna get a battery that's already charged. I got 2 batteries here. Should we try these guys?
This one might look a little disproportionate.
Disproportionate? What the heck does that mean, Brad? Disproportionate. All right. Power supply is 0 amps when you prompt to boot. It's just not displaying. The power supply does not play nicely with OBS. All right, let's see what happens. I really want you guys to get this. So someone will continue. Yeah, Brad will just take right over. That would be something. That's a really good idea. I should.
I will take right over to the ready to recover computer.
I will take it right over to the ready to recover computer. That's pretty funny. Okay, disproportionate because it's a 14 Pro?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Now it's asking me a lot. I got to plug in a battery all the way over there instead of under the microscope. You know what? If this is what it is, I'm going to have to also give up connecting things without using the microscope. All right, let's see. I see the Apple logo. Oh, it's happening. We have image. Hooray. Huzzah. It's happening. Yay. It's going to get done. Oh, woo. Does touch work? Yay. Huzzah. Data is recovered right in time for track practice. Look at that. It's 3:58, 2 minutes to fly out of here.
It's 4 o'clock. The bell's ringing outside.
Is it? Is my phone wrong?
Yeah.
Nonsense. All right. Okay. And today's lesson is if you're over 50, you always connect stuff under the microscope or else. Fixed. Okay. Very good. I'm going to hand it off to Brad for ready to recover, and we're going to be able to do an iTunes backup. I would love to talk to you guys about stolen device protection and all sorts of little stuff we've been dealing with that. But these guys want an iTunes backup, and we're going to hand it off and be able to do that. All right, I will see you next time. I really hope to be able to do more live streams. It's so fun, and I'm going to go to Trek. All right, end stream. End stream there, end stream there. End stream here, stop